Hi, welcome to Design for Life Bible Study Week 10. As we come to the end of our time together, we've got one more very important topic that we need to talk about. And it's the idea of teamwork. You see, God created us to be a people, to be more than just who we are, but to be the sum of our parts. Is very powerful. But we're going to look at the book of Nehemiah today, because in Nehemiah, we see the prophet Nehemiah, the man of God, who is sent by God to reestablish his people in the land. Let me give you a little background. The people of God went into the land under Joshua, and they conquered much of the land, and they lived in the land, and they became two nations within the land because they rebelled against God, and they fought with each other, and they had many kings that came and went, and most of them chose not to follow God. And after several generations of this, God eventually says, the people of God are not following, not doing what they should, and they need to be shaken up, and I'm going to allow a little bit of persecution to come. So God sent some neighboring countries in, and they took the people of God out of the land. They displaced them, and they put them up north in a place called Syria. And because they were up there in a different land for a long time, the people were groaning and crying out to God and saying, God, we belong in the land. What happened? We're ready to be faithful. And God heard those prayers. And he called a man, Nehemiah, and said, Nehemiah, I want you to take my people, and I want you to reestablish a remnant in the land. So Nehemiah, through a hand of God moment, took the people back with him, had permission from the Persian king, and he actually starts to rebuild the walls in Jerusalem. That's when he encounters some trouble. You see, there was a man named Sanballat who was in that area at the time. He was a governor. And he was very threatened by the Israelites, the people of God, coming back into the land and reestablishing the city of Jerusalem and building the walls. And he didn't think that this was going to bode well for him. And so he rose up and he wrote letters to the Persian king, and he said all kinds of things that were negative about Nehemiah. And this went on for some time. And sometimes Nehemiah and the people of God had to stop building, and then they would start again. And it went back and forth. And it rose to such a sharp point of conflict that the children of God were working on the walls with a sword on their side. And it said that with one hand they worked, with the other hand they were ready with the sword. They were afraid that Sanballat and all of his cronies were going to attack them and kill them. It was in that place that we see how teamwork made them strong. You see, they actually did rebuild the entire wall. And God didn't just supernaturally shut down Sanballat. Nehemiah came up with a plan for the people of God to work together. He called them by families to work on different parts of the wall. And he told them to be ready to fight if they needed to. And they stood and they worked from sunup till sundown. And they even slept on the job site in order to make sure that the work that God called them to do continued to go forward. Now I want you to imagine for a second, if Nehemiah had said that, and maybe say 20-30% of the people said, yeah, this is something I'm not really interested in. It's too scary. I'm tired. I'm going to go back to my house. And there were places along the wall where nobody guarded and nobody was at. It would have left huge breaches. But that's not what happened. Everybody did their part, and together they were strong. You see, God has called us as the people of God to work together. And he's established a principle from the beginning of time when he created Adam and Eve right up until now, that we are better together. Ecclesiastes 4:9 says, two are better than one. God allows us to do things together we can never do on our own. Look, there's times when we want to give up. There's times in my life I want to give up. It's pretty easy to give up on yourself compared to giving up on your team. When you've got somebody else who's counting on you, when you've got a family or you've got a job where there's a team of people and they're all counting on you, it's hard to let all of them down, although it might be easier if it was just you to step aside from your responsibility. And God knows this. He hardwires this into our lives. The great President Abraham Lincoln once said, divided we fall, but united we stand. And that principle has been true for all people, all times, all places. We're better together, we're stronger together, and teamwork is what makes all of us able to do the work that God called his church to do. I just want to encourage you, be part of the team, do your part, and if each one of us does our part, then great things are going to happen.